House Democrats are investigating the shakeup in the Homeland Security Department, including the ouster of the Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen. Let's bring in our congressional correspondent, Phil Mattingly. Phil, tell us more about this investigation as the White House is continuing to stonewall Democrats.
Yeah, well, for every action, there appears to be a reaction in the very hostile back and forth between the White House and House Democrats. This one pertaining to Stephen Miller, senior White House advisor. House Democrats had requested his testimony. They were informed yesterday by the White House Stephen Miller would not testify. The White House citing long precedent over several administrations from both parties. Democrats responded. 3 powerful committee chairmen sending a letter to acting Homeland Security Secretary Kevin McAleenan asking for all documents, all communications related to the ouster of several top Department of Homeland Security officials. The goal for Democrats right now is to probe why those officials were removed. Their removals reported to be because they disagreed with the White House position on several border-related issues, including when the president proposed shutting down the border with Mexico in its entirety. What you see in this back and forth, Wolf, is just increasing escalation between House Democrats and the White House, one that the White House has made very clear they have no problem with ignoring each and every request. One House Democratic aide told me earlier today, up to this point, the White House has ignored or slow-walked 35 requests for documents. More than 9 administration officials have either refused to testify or decided to come later in their testimony. This is a back and forth that shows no end anytime soon. Democrats, clearly the tension exists if the White House doesn't comply. How this plays out is certainly going to be something to watch when Democrats come back into town next week, Wolf.
The president today compared this impeachment to a lynching. Is that how you would characterize this inquiry, as a lynching?
Given the history in our country, I would not compare this to a lynching. That was an unfortunate choice of words. It is an unfair process, and a better way to characterize it would be to call it an unfair process and inconsistent with the kinds of procedural safeguards that are routinely provided for people in this kind of situation, either in court or in an impeachment process in our country.
The president has said that you told him that his phone call with the Ukrainian president was perfect and innocent. Do you believe that the president has handled this Ukrainian situation perfectly?
We've not had any conversations on that subject.
So he was lying about that?
You'll have to ask him. I don't recall any conversations with the president about that phone call.
These are big numbers, and the costs do seem to be mounting for Boeing when it comes to the 737 MAX crisis. Let's take a look at the bill that they've talked about so far. That $4.9 billion charge, they say, mostly related to customer compensation and concessions. Add to that, also announced yesterday, $1.7 billion in costs related to production delays. Also another, on top of another billion they announced in the first quarter. And they didn't even mention yesterday, Julia, the $100 million fund they've set up to compensate customers. So the numbers really are growing. But as I said, this is extremely fluid. I think it's telling that the company hasn't updated its 2019 guidance yet. They said again yesterday they're not ready to do that. We've got a lot of wild cards. They haven't presented the software fix to the FAA yet. The Boeing official has told CNN to expect that around September. And after that, there are even more uncertainties. What will the global regulators do? Will they follow in the footsteps of the FAA? So there's a lot of uncertainty around these forecasts. But I think the reason why we see the stock up today is that Boeing is trying to get out in front of this, to kind of ring fence the risk around this problem and to reassure investors that it's doing that.
The president sent out a tweet. The 5 of you have all been out here, kind of deriding the process that Democrats have held. The president also did in his tweet, but he went a little further and said that, quote, all Republicans must remember what they are witnessing here, a lynching. Do you condemn that terminology?
That's not the language I would use. It's very clear that what the Democrats are doing here does not have due process. It's not fair in the process. It's not something that this House has done ever in the past. Think about it for a moment. A Democrat-controlled House, a speaker, set forth a process in dealing with President Nixon. A Republican speaker set forth a fair process dealing with President Clinton. Now we even change the rules in the Intel committee that you can't even read the transcripts if you're on the committee unless the big hand of the majority party is there to witness you. Never has anyone been treated that way. Let alone not have due process. Not have, in President Clinton's case, his attorneys were there able to cross-examine. They were able to put a witness list together. Both sides had subpoena power. None of that is available today. So how could you even trust it, and why would you even go forward? Yes, sir?
Mr. Leader, you said it's not the language you use. Why wouldn't you use that one?
I don't agree with that language. It's pretty simple. Yes.
Congressman, I am loath to read presidential tweets often when they're intentionally inflammatory or say things that are not true, but the president just wrote something moments ago that I feel requires your reaction to this. He is trying to coalesce Republican opposition to the impeachment inquiry, and he just wrote moments ago, all Republicans must remember what they are witnessing here, a lynching. The president just called this impeachment inquiry a lynching. Your reaction?
Well, the president has always been pretty loose with his words, and this is another indication of that. I really believe this man is prone to inflammatory statements, and that is one word no president ought to apply to himself. I've studied presidential history quite a bit, and I don't know if we've ever seen anything quite like this. Andrew Johnson never would have described what was happening to him this way, and certainly Bill Clinton didn't, nor did Nixon. So this president is hopefully an anomaly.
Does using a word like that in a situation like this offend your sense of history?
Yes, it does, very much so. I'm not just a politician up here, I'm a Southern politician. I'm a product of the South. I know the history of that word. That is a word that we ought to be very, very careful about using.
So New Zealand will now face England in the semi-finals after they defeated Australia earlier today, and attention will now turn to the quarter-finals on Sunday when the host nation Japan will once again take on the mighty South Africa. The Brave Blossoms looking to summon the spirit of 2015 for another upset that would be even greater than the one they pulled off at the Miracle of Brighton 4 years ago. But coach Jamie Joseph says they can't take too much comfort from looking back.
We won't be drawing on that at all. In fact, I've been trying to forget about it for the last 4 years since I've come here. That's generally what everyone sort of alludes to and talks about. But we're a different team.
How are you feeling?
Oh, pretty sad right now. You know what? We've beaten these guys a few times in the last couple of years. Today wasn't our day, but this team has given us 10 years of glory and success and all the rest of us. So we're still behind them.
Great win. You know what? They rallied well. I think that they came out on top at the start. The first 20 minutes was crucial. At the end of the day, we're the All Blacks. We're here to win the World Cup. We're here to go back to back to back, and we won't stop. So bring on England, bring on South Africa in the final, Wales. It doesn't matter.
That's a very tough loss to take. New Zealand played very well. Ireland are better than that. They didn't produce on the day. Tokyo's been amazing. We've had a really good time.
You can be sure that the Tokyo Stadium behind me here will be shaken to its core as rugby fever goes into overdrive and Japan desperately trying to keep their fairy tale alive. Christina McFarlane, CNN, Tokyo.
Will you comment at all on your president calling on authoritarian China to investigate an American citizen?
No, look,
this
is a witch hunt. No, I'm not letting it stand. I don't want to go into this. It's like, this is the problem here. We've got a great economy. This president's doing a great job. And all you guys want to do is drag him down into some mud. It's with anonymous sources. Who are these anonymous sources, Jim? How come you never have them on the set?
Do you have any contradictory information that the president made this pledge to the Chinese
I was not
president?
privy to that call, but what I can tell you is this.
Have you ever raised investigating Joe Biden with China during trade negotiations?
What I can tell you is this. Can I tell you this? Okay. I've read probably over 100 stories in 3 years, which were based on anonymous sources, which simply had fake news in them and inaccurate information. So
when we have longer time,
I saw
we can
that
go
story
through the
break
number of
last night, and I thought it was irresponsible journalism. I urge everybody to go read that story and see how many times you can find an actual source in there.
Have you ever raised investigating Joe Biden or his son during your contacts with Chinese officials?
Me, personally? Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I will never talk about what happens inside the White House, okay? Not confirm or deny, because that's the slippery slope. Let me ask you this, Jim.
Hang
on.
Let me ask you this.
Let me ask you this.
In the trade negotiations?
Let me ask you this. How is it that a U.S. president going forward is ever going to be able to have a candid conversation with a foreign leader about any sensitive matter if the jackals are always wanting to get things revealed. You guys want every transcript revealed of everything. And by the way, the president putting stuff in a secure server now based on all the leaks that have come from that White House. I'd put everything in a secure server.
But just before we go, I'll just give you the opportunity. Have you ever raised investigating Joe Biden or his son in Chinese negotiations?
Have you ever given me a source that's other than anonymous for any of this crap?
Listen.
That's what I want to know. Okay?
Read the story and tell me if you have contradictory information.
3.5% unemployment rate.
I'll give you an opportunity. If you have contradictory information about Trump making that pledge, you're welcome back on the show anytime.